Hello there, and welcome to the behind the scenes presentation for my all-new gothic short film, The Detective, where you'll get to see how I actually made this possible and some of the creative choices I've made for this, and also some behind the scenes anecdotes that I'm going to be sharing. So, sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy this feature presentation.
We're like Key and Peele.
Okay.
We're like Morecambe and Wise.
You're for me.
Bradley Stewart.
Why are you laughing at
This is what Forensics believes. Yeah.
I don't do lines, man. So, he got mad. Why'd you say that again?
So, the idea for The Detective really came from me wanting to make a Batman short film. In my spare time, I am quite a huge fan of the Batman universe and how that story has shaped itself over the past 80 odd years, but as part of my media studies course, I've always wanted to make a Batman short film, but by the time I reached this project, I've realised that it wouldn't exactly be feasible, and it probably would have cost a lot of money in the long run for me to actually create a Batman short film, because I don't really have access to any of the luxuries that many Batman films have had in the past. So that's when I began thinking about possibly creating a short film for the project that, while not directly influenced by Batman, I like to think that it follows maybe the same tone as that story. Okay, writing the script was interesting because I already had the basic premise in place, but it was after writing the first draft, which mainly took inspiration from the interrogation scene from the 2008 film The Dark Knight, I decided to go down a different route, as the original script draft I had come up with seemed a bit too bland at the time, and I thought I can make this a bit more exciting, and a bit more like a detective story. So, following my ditching of the first script draft, I went back to the research I had already conducted for the piece, and decided to modify the premise for the story, but this time focusing on a female protagonist. Now, one part of this project that we were required to include was a title sequence, and as someone who likes to mess around with green screen and graphics from time to time, this seemed right up my street, for this project at least. So, initially, I created a title sequence with its purpose to also act as a quote-unquote teaser, but following some further deliberation and progress with the idea, I decided to finally go back and give the title sequence the love and attention that it deserved, which is the title sequence that these days you will now see in the finished product, which is on YouTube right now. So, I started by grabbing a background photo of a gothic city, then I found some dramatic music along with the tile I had already created, and I set to work, and the finished result was, in my opinion, some of my favourite visual work on this project. While the camera work itself was pretty good thanks to the talented crew I had behind the scenes, I felt more of the visual stuff in the title sequence I thought was brilliant, and I felt really set the tone for the piece. So, when it came to production, I got in touch with my friend Jack Godfrey, a talented colleague of mine who I've worked on several projects with. Anyway, Jack along with my friend Tyler were the first two people I got on board for the project. Then it was following this that I approached my friend Jodie to help out, potentially as the new female protagonist that I had written, Lucy Atkins. Unfortunately, she had to turn it down, so instead I approached my friend Becky, who before now I haven't actually worked on a project with, but here I got the chance to work with her. And on this project, I really feel like I really grew as a creative person, because in past projects, I've mainly had two people work with me on a majority of my projects, these being Chris and Luke. Unfortunately, things aren't great between us right now, and our friendship isn't what it once was, so I decided maybe working with them would not be the best idea. Anyway, shooting with the cameras was really interesting, because the last time I properly set up a multi-camera shoot was for my Norfolk 99 mockumentary, so it was actually brilliant to get the opportunity to actually do another multi-camera shoot. And it was interesting to work on, as I decided to shoot the scenes out of sequence, mainly because I felt that shooting Jack's scenes first would allow for continuity on the set to not really be screwed up all that much. A large amount of the shoot took place in the studio, a space that I have access to that me and my colleagues can work in for the purposes of actually producing these types of projects. Anyway, after shooting everything in the studio, the time had come for us to shoot the final scenes, and by this point we'd actually wrapped Jack's scene, so I'd had him behind the camera helping out. So for the outdoor scenes, Jack was helping out with the cinematography there. Now, it took a few tries and some goofing around, but we got all of our shots done that we needed to, and I transferred the footage to my hard drive to begin the next phase of production, the editing. Okay, editing for me has always been my favourite part of production in the media world, because in some ways it can really help shape the tone of the piece, but I wanted to keep the tone just as grounded as the narrative, and it took me quite a while to cut the footage together. So remember what I said earlier about shooting this project out of sequence? Well, here's why. Because I had a focus on found footage for this new version of the story, I was able to insert different shots to where I had perceived them in the script. So I put the scenes with Lucy Atkins and Thomas Jones, two of the main characters in this project, after the title sequence, with Lucy then at work analysing the security footage. Following this, I took the footage I had previously shot of Jack and moved that to after Lucy being at the desk. Now, if you've actually seen The Detective, most of this is going to make a bit more sense. So, after adding a few visual tweaks and adding in some effects of my own, I now had some believable found footage for the project, because I added in a couple of effects here and there to make Jack's scenes seem like they were on a security tape, and that they were being re-watched on some kind of computer. Following this, I added in the outdoor scenes, where I actually chose to use some slow motion camera work here, and the song Heaven Knows, which I previously watched in another of my favourite movies. And I used this song for the credits, and finally, I had the project which you can watch now. Anyway, I'd like to thank you all for watching this behind the scenes presentation on The Detective. I hope that here you will have learned how I was actually able to create this project. So, thank you all for watching this, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.